Hi. So I uploaded a video already on this, but frustratingly the sound was off, and I don't know why that just sometimes happens. It's not a consistent problem on this laptop, so it just seems to periodically happen. So shout out to Frost, Wolf, and Sean Moonshine. You guys pointed that out. So yeah, hopefully this one will be okay. Um, yeah. So big night in Las Vegas. Tyson Fury is now a unified world heavyweight champion. Um, that's remarkable. I'd need to look back on the win that Joshua had over Klitschko to see the exact details of this. But if that wasn't unified, then it certainly is, and it will make Tyson Fury the first British unified champion since Lennox Lewis back in 1999. Um, so it's really a proud moment for British boxing, and it was impossible not to feel. I couldn't watch the fight directly. I don't have pay-per-view, but I did listen to it on radio. Um, BBC Sports Talk, I think it was. Apparently, I'm going to have to look at the fight when someone uploads it, but apparently, Wilder was really overwhelmed. He was really struggling in the latter rounds, and it ended by stoppage in the sixth round. Um, and by the commentary, and okay, allowing for it as British commentary, it may be biased. It just seems that Wilder was really, um, really overwhelmed. There's no other way to put it. So it's definitely a proud moment for British boxing and a proud moment for Tyson Fury. And one couldn't help but warm to the guy when he started singing American Pie in the United States. I mean, this is a man, whatever you think of him, and there's been times when I've been a bit iffy about Tyson Fury. He is undeniably entertaining. He has undeniably got charisma. And I think, if nothing else, he has a reasonable claim to being the most entertaining heavyweight since Muhammad Ali. I mean, I really don't think that's an exaggeration. He is utterly unique. There is no other heavyweight like Tyson Fury. And I'm not just talking about skill, I'm talking about personality as well. He's a larger than life figure. He's just a phenomenon. Um, So I think with this achievement, with stopping his opponent in the rematch after what Wilder done to him, after decisively knocking him down in that last fight, and then Fury had this almost alien ability to come back from that when most men would have been rendered, well, put in a hospital, to put it bluntly. Um, Come back and then win so decisively last night. It really is astonishing. Lennox Lewis, of course, avenge his only losses to Hazim Rahman and the draw with Evander Holyfield. But I think this is definitely going to put Fury in the conversation to be the greatest British heavyweight of all time. I've always felt, yeah, it's Lennox Lewis without question. And I take nothing away from Lennox Lewis. He's a great fighter, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But what Tyson Fury achieved last night, I really think he is at least in the competition. For me, he's unquestionably the second greatest British heavyweight, and I think now, I mean, what he's achieved, unless I'm mistaken, a little bit younger than Lennox Lewis as well. So I'd say Lewis, Fury, Joshua in that order, or Fury, Lewis, Joshua in that order. I still think Joshua is a great fighter, but we won't. And again, I take nothing away from Joshua. He defeated Vladimir Klitschko, but we do conveniently forget that. And I was guilty of this as well. The whole world focused on Joshua's win over Klitschko, and Fury's win over Klitschko kind of got a bit overshadowed, perhaps unfairly. Um, I thought I dismissed Fury in the beginning as a bit of a loudmouth, a bit of a clown, but he just kept getting win after win after win, overcoming adversity, overcoming clinical depression, mental health problems, and other issues in his private life to come back. Um, and actually, I'm warming to Tyson Fury because some of the more outlandish things he's come out with in press conferences, I think it really is all hype. I mean, after the fight, it was all sportsmanlike. It was all he went over to Wilder. He said, "You're a great fighter. You'll come back." But I think he said that second round was dynamite, something like that. And full respect to Wilder. He took his defeat with humility. Um, it's hard not to have a good feeling in that situation when you have a guy who's really deserved to win. Then he respects his opponent. The audience respects the crowd. I should say respects the opponent as well. It's just the perfect combination. Um, Wilder will definitely come back. He is a great fighter. But clearly he's not on Fury's level. He's not. Um, so the next big question, the obvious question now, is either Fury versus Wilder free. I think Wilder's camp would need to bow to some demands. I think Wilder would have to come to the UK. I don't think after that sort of loss he could expect the Fury team to come over again. So he'd have to come to the UK, or there need to be something like I think there would need to be something in the stipulation that would secure that because this was a decisive win. This wasn't like a 12 round fight where it was close. This was a decisive win. The other big question, of course, is Fury versus Joshua. Could it be that the biggest heavyweight clash of our times is actually a domestic British heavyweight clash? This is a very exciting time for the heavyweight division. It really is another golden era. In heavyweight boxing, I would say, roughly speaking, um, the 1970s, the 1990s, and the late 2010s, and maybe coming now into the 20s, are the golden eras of heavyweight boxing. Because if we think of other eras, the 1940s was dominated by Joe Louis. The 1960s was dominated by Cassius Clay, as he then was. The 1980s was kind of a mixed baggage. Mike Tyson, that is, dominated the second half. But the other decades I've named, the 70s, the 90s, and the late 2010s, it really has been an exciting time because there hasn't been one fighter that's utterly dominated it. The Klitschko's, of course, dominated the 2000s. And whilst I have enormous respect for the Klitschko's, in all honesty, it did make it a little bit boring. So the heavyweight division is alive again. Yeah, it's an exciting time to be a boxing fan. So, as a Briton, I'm proud. We now have the unified world heavyweight champion. It's incredible. Um, and if we have BBC Sports Personality of the Year this year, I cannot see how Fury cannot win that. I mean, come on. They need to really consider this achievement. Um, And it's personality. It's not just about achievement. I mean, you don't get much of a bigger personality than Tyson Fury. I know sometimes he's been come out with some things that are quite shocking and distasteful. Sometimes even I've been a bit funny about that. But I think it's important to understand in heavyweight boxing, there is a lot of hype. And it's entertaining. It's unquestionably entertaining. One last word. I've mentioned now Fury has a real claim to being the greatest British heavyweight ever. Others that would be in that top 10. Top three for me is unquestionably um, Lennox Lewis, Fury, and Joshua. Fourth, maybe Henry Cooper. But there's others that would definitely get into that conversation. Joe Bugner, very underrated fighter. He may even be better than Henry Cooper. He defeated Henry Cooper, of course. Bob Fitzsimmons, the difficult thing with Bob Fitzsimmons, he was the first British man to win a world heavyweight title, albeit at a time when, there were newspaper decisions, so we're talking 120 years ago. Also, the thing with Fitzsimmons was his actual nationality was a bit ambiguous. He was born in Cornwall, but I believe he had New Zealand nationality, and he never fought in the UK. So that puts a few question marks on whether you put him in British rankings or not. Still a great fighter. Um, Frank Bruno, thinking of more recent times, Frank Bruno, Henry Cooper, of course, probably Bruce Woodcock, um, David Hay, I would say would definitely be in there, maybe Dillian White. But that special bracket for me is Lewis, Fury, and Joshua. That's a given. Okay, let me know your thoughts. Did you watch the fight live? Where do you think it goes from here? Is it going to be a third fight with Wilder to make that trilogy that is so popular in boxing circles? The interesting thing is in the Ali Frazier trilogy, it was actually the second fight that was quite boring and unmemorable compared to the first and third fight. with this, the second fight hasn't disappointed. By all accounts, it was a fantastic bout. I haven't seen it, but third trilogy, could that be boring then? If there's a third fight, who knows? I think it's plausible, but I think the Wilder camp, if this went ahead, the Wilder camp would have to make some. They'd have to be in the sort of negotiating seat. But huge respect to Tyson Fury. It's a proud moment for British sport and British boxing.